All right, guys, welcome back, and excited to get into this day here. For everyone at home taking the Life Coach certification, make sure you have your manual, your book, everything ready to go, your pen, your paper. Always write, never trust your brain. You're not going to remember a darn thing if you don't write down. Facebook Live, people, welcome back. We did this all day yesterday. If you missed the 8 hours on Facebook Live yesterday, oh my God, just stay on my page and watch it today. We're going through multiple more hours. Guys at home, real serious, take notes, don't trust your brain. And to the class, so good to have you back. Woo! And what we're going to do is we're going to start off with how we left yesterday and how we leave at the end of every segment. And I'm sure you remember what we're going to do next. Anyone know what we're going to do next?
Right. One thing you remember.
Okay, so exactly. So what I want you to do is go to a blank piece of paper, and I just want you to write 2 or 3 or 4 points that were most important to you yesterday from the very beginning. If you want to flip through your manual in 30 seconds and sort of remind yourself, go ahead. Or if you can remember off the top of your head, that's great. But repetition is the king of learning. If we just go through this thing one time, you're only going to recall a certain amount. So at the end of every segment, we want to go, what was important? And so today we're going to start off with, what was important about yesterday? The 2, the 3, the 4 things that I say, I got to remember to do this, or this opened my eyes, or this was an amazing reminder. I'm not doing it, but it was a great reminder. Let's take a few minutes and write it down. This is Life Coach Level 1 certification. 50% of people that take these courses do it just to radically change their own lives, to break through blocks, to let go of addictions or beliefs about relationships that aren't working, or money that's not working, or career that's not working, or spirituality that's not working. So 50% of people that take this course take it just to radically change and shift their own existence. The other 50% of people that take this course go on to level 2 and 3 to become master certified life coaches and then to do this work. I'm going to say about 75% of people that go, we've been teaching this course since 1996, 75% of people that take all 3 levels to become certified life coaches do it part-time. They still keep their full-time job or their full-time business, but they really love helping people. And so they'll do it evenings or weekends, and about 25 to 30% of people turn it into a full-time career. It's extremely fulfilling. I can tell you that. It's outrageously fulfilling to do this work and to work with people one-on-one. Because of technology now, you don't even have to have a freaking office, which is really amazing. You can do it all via Skype and phone, right? From when I started in 1990 doing this kind of work, I don't think I had an office until 1999. The first 9 years that I did this work, I did it all via phone, and we didn't even have Skype back then. We just did it via phone. And some of the calls coming from Europe back then were really expensive. Not for me, but for the person calling from Europe, it was really super expensive to do the sessions for them. But now with Skype, it's free. We have people from London and Australia, New Zealand. We have people from all over the place, and they don't pay a penny for the call itself, you know, which is kind of cool. Okay, who wants to start? What are your big points from yesterday?
Mine was the most important thing is to discover the one thing I delayed and procrastinated, and learning the definition of what codependency is and how it has affected all sections of my life. Wow.
Okay, so the one thing that she picked up was that we really need to learn how to pick the one thing and to go after it with abandon and not get dissuaded. And remember what I said yesterday, when you look at the one thing, you want to look at the goal that we've denied, delayed, procrastinated, that we haven't put 110% into, we know we can do better, all of those kind of things. But then once you choose your one thing, if you move forward and 3 or 4 weeks into working on your one thing, 6 days a week for at least an hour a day, and I'll explain a little bit more about that timeline, because it could be 6 hours for some people, it could be 45 minutes for others, and it could be 10 minutes for some people, which I'll explain why in a minute. But you're going to be tempted. If it is your true one thing, within a couple weeks, your subconscious mind is going to try to trick you and tell you it's not. It is so incredible, right? It's like you'll be going after the one thing, and in the back of your mind, because the subconscious mind does not want you to change, it's going to say, you know, you're talking about this money or codependency or this addiction or letting go of something. but why don't we go after this? And if this is easier, you know it's a trap. Okay? That's how you know that the subconscious is trying to trick you into not changing. If it's harder, if in 3 or 4 weeks you're working on something, you go, oh, it is not X, it's Y, and Y is what I really don't want to do, then it's okay to change. But be cautious and remember that. If you're working on a major goal, and I remember this happened in my addiction recovery, I decided I was going to get clean and I was going to get sober, and within 7 days of not drinking, the thoughts were, you don't really have problems here. Even though I had 25 or 30 years of problems. You don't really have, why don't we go back to increasing our income again? You know, it was like so tricky. And then when I looked at, okay, well, which is really more difficult? Well, breaking a 30-year habit of addiction is a lot harder than messing with my income. And so then I said, look at that little devil. It's trying to get me off of doing the most difficult thing. Like, that's how insidious and tricky it is. Remember what we went over yesterday. The role of the subconscious is to keep you exactly where you are today. For the areas of life that's rocking, that's beautiful. For what you're doing well, that's the subconscious as an ally. But we're not worried about what you're doing well in this course. We want you to congratulate yourselves on what's doing well, but we want you to go after what is going to make the bigger difference. The other thing I want to remind you about is that in our work in life coaching, it's remove first, add second. Remove first, add second. So remove that thing that's blocking you, procrastination, codependency, addiction, the need to be right, a lack of compassion, a lack of patience, whatever it is, we remove first and add second. Now, I'll give you an example of why this is so important. Right now, your brain and maybe your time is filled to the maximum. And so if you were to say, I need to add more time on a daily basis to accomplish X, what if you don't have more time? And let's say you get up at 4:30 in the morning or 5 o'clock and you go till 9 or 10 at night, and there just really is no more time in the day to exercise, to meditate, to do whatever, right? If you try to add on top of an already booked schedule, what's going to happen?
You're gonna break down.
You're going to break down. What else?
Overwhelmed.
You're going to be overwhelmed. What else?
Failure.
Failure. What else?
You're not gonna accomplish anything.
You're not going to accomplish everything. What else?
Disappointment.
Disappointment. What else?
Discouragement.
Discouragement, which leads to lower self-confidence and lower self-esteem, right? You're going, oh, I had this goal, and now I have to give it up because I just can't do it. So we say, what do I need to remove to give myself that free space? Just like on a hard drive on a computer. We just went through that this morning. What do we have to remove when the hard drive is filled? The old photos of the ex, whatever it is, right? Like, what do we need to remove from the computer to open up more space for new stuff? So write this down. Remove first, add second. And Michaela goes, I already did. I already wrote that. So for everyone taking the course at home, like, you really want to sit and think. Does it mean I need to remove some of my social time in order to add something new? Instead of going out on Friday and Saturday nights and meeting with people at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock for drinks, do I need to say to them, I'll meet you at 9 or 10 because I'm going to yoga at 8 o'clock? Whatever, right? I mean, I'm not saying don't be social and, become a hermit. But there's ways to remove before we add. But if we keep trying to add, we're going to get so discouraged, and we may even quit going after anything new because we just go, oh, I've tried it and I just can't. Okay, questions on that? The other thing that you mentioned, codependency. While this isn't a course on codependency, yesterday we went through some of the definitions of it, and you know how insidious it is and how deep it is and how tricky it is and how it comes off in the form of being very valiant, wanting to save people, help people, be the martyr, right? It has a very pretty face. Not real good end results, but it has a very pretty face.
It's a mask.
It is a mask, Because it's not a substance, it's hard to sometimes identify. From yesterday, what did we pick up?
It takes 365 days to change the subconscious mind.
Yes.
And it's willingness to do the work with no excuses, rationalization, or justification.
Okay, and we believe, even though there are individuals and organizations that teach you can change a habit in 30 days or 90 days or whatever, you might be able to change a short-term habit in a short period of time. But if you have a long-term habit of codependency, procrastination, overspending, whatever it might be, addiction, the odds of us changing it short-term is outrageously tiny. And if it was possible, people wouldn't need help. But when you commit 365 days, you're going through holidays, birthdays, no excuses, you're doing the work, right? And when you do that, you have a really good chance of changing that subconscious mind. And remember, some of the stuff that we're working on in here has been with us for a very long time. It could be a year, it could be 10 years, it could be 40 years. A lifetime that we have carried these beliefs that are incorrect, these habits that are incorrect. I mean, this is a long term. So when you commit 365 days to change, you could shatter something, a belief system that's inaccurate that we have held for 30 years in one freaking year. And please write this down. That's called instant manifestation. If you can change something that you've carried for 30 years in 1 year, that is an instant manifestation. We get very confused when we hear those words, instant manifestation. Why? What do we think of with instant manifestation? What's the pop psychology definition of instant manifestation? Tell me, Michaela.
Instant gratification.
Now.
Instant gratification.
Instant gratification. It happened, okay, if it doesn't happen today, it's going to happen tomorrow. Or this weekend, right? Now, and we hold this space. Here's the space, we hold it. If that were to happen, that would be called a miracle. Right? Instant manifestation, though, to me, is look at how long you were doing X, and in 1 year, you've shattered it. We had someone contacted me yesterday, a client, and they said to me, I haven't had a drop of alcohol in 7 days. I cannot believe the changes that have happened in 7 days. Now, they still have 300 and something days left because they're going to have to go through their birthday, and they're going to have to go through the holidays, they're going to have to go through crappy days, they're going to have to go through arguments with their partner, they're going to have to go through arguments at work, they're going to have to go through all kinds of crap that we go, you know what, screw it, I deserve this. But if they've already felt the power of 7 days, like they're very inspired right now, you know? And so then what we do with them, and everyone here and everyone online, is we say, write down every day the 4 or 5 things you're proud of, happy with, grateful. Put it in writing every day, and the 3 or 4 or 5 things that you're challenged by, because I want you on day 8 to write down, I didn't drink again. Oh my God, right? I want you to see it in the physical world. Do not leave this stuff up here. It's not enough. When you write it on paper, you're getting instant validation, which is a good thing, okay? You're getting instant validation for your changes. That's why we encourage just people to journal every day. Not when you feel like it, not when it's convenient, every day. Okay? What was the other thing that you mentioned?
The willingness to do the work with
Yeah.
no excuses, rationalization, justification, procrastination.
Yeah, the willingness to do the work. Anyone else want to share from yesterday, Dan?
Yeah, I picked up some things just for practicality for my clients and my employees, but I wrote down to incorporate homework for meetings, keep track of accomplishments and challenges for them, because I think sometimes they forget them.
Yeah.
And then the 90%, 10%, 90% asking questions, 10%
Giving advice. Awesome.
So those are the ones that to incorporate.
Yeah, that's great. That's great stuff. Now, one thing that happens when we bring this into a family situation or a business situation is that this is going to be new. And people may do what? When we bring in new practices, new techniques, new...
Revolt.
Resent.
That's a pretty strong word, but we could say a form of revolt.
I will say that I've done this for the last 2 years and came in and totally revamped the culture of my business by doing so. And I knew some people were going to leave.
Yeah,
And
That's right.
I knew some people were going to stay, and I knew one of the people that was going to leave was the manager of my company.
wow.
But I knew that in order for me to develop a culture of having the best people, that these kind of tactics needed to be done in order to bring out the best in them.
Yeah.
And some people aren't gonna like it, and I knew the people that wouldn't, and I lost them, but it created a space to bring in somebody else who was even more amazing.
Amen.
It's a trap you
Let
try.
go.
Yes.
So when you are making these changes, you realize that yes, there are some people that are not going to jive with this.
Yes.
But don't look at it as a
Lost.
loss. Think of it as an opportunity to bring another person that's going to even enhance the culture of your life and the lives of people around you, as opposed to losing somebody, because that person was holding you back anyways.
Yeah.
100%.
Even if it's one of the most important people in your life.
100%, Dan. Now, Dan's talking about bringing this into his business. When you make major changes in your life, your partner, your children may not like it. Your parents may not like it. Your friends may not like it. We've worked with people on our weight loss program where that they used to get together with friends to have cake or pie. They used to get together for dessert only. Okay, now this is a group, it happened to be of women, that would meet a couple times every week for dessert only.
That's good.
And they were all struggling big time with their weight, but this was, and they said, we don't drink, right? So they looked at their dessert nights as being a great opportunity to socialize and to have fun and everything else, right? So one of them comes in and says, okay, you know what, I really need to lose this weight. So I asked her to write down what were all the things that were holding her back, and she writes this, dessert nights out. And I go, what's dessert nights out? Well, me and my girlfriends, there's 5 of us, we get together. And so I said, well, what's the shape of all, well, we're all overweight. I said, okay, so here's your one thing. Your one thing is weight, so we're going to say you're underneath your subcategories. It's going to be sugar and convenience foods and junk food. We have to that's remove first, right? Before you add. I didn't even talk about adding exercise. I didn't talk about adding healthy foods. I didn't talk about any of that. I said we need to remove, right? Because removal is a huge one thing on its own. When you're used to having sugar every day and crap food every day, that's a huge move. And you're going to go through psychological, physical withdrawal from the sugar and white flour and fat, and all. Plus you're going to go through the social withdrawal when you stop going out to eat. Now all of a sudden you're going through all kinds of withdrawal, physical, social, everything. So she contacted her friends and said, I'm not going to be able to do X. I'm not going to be able to do Y with you guys. But instead of this, why don't we go for a walk on the beach? And they all revolted. And she was basically banished from her dessert friends, right? So when you're doing something good and healthy for you, it doesn't mean other people are going to grab on and, we've worked with couples where one of them decided to get sober and the other partner was trying to sabotage them every freaking day of the week. You're no fun anymore. We used to have a great time. We'd go out all the time together. Now you're not drinking. This sucks. And they tried to sabotage their success, right? So when you're doing something good, we can't expect that everyone around us is going to think it's a great thing, because if it's rocking their boat, they may push back, just like Dan was saying. Now, even with a partner, hate to be so brutally honest, but if you're making positive changes and they're trying to sabotage your success, you got to look seriously at the relationship, because there's something that's been amiss for a long time. Why do I say that? Because in a healthy relationship, a partner would celebrate their partner's improvement. Can I get a yes? In a healthy relationship. So if you're in a relationship where you're, seemingly on the same team and someone goes to make a positive change and their partner pushes back, that's a seemingly healthy relationship. But it hasn't been. Or your partner would be on your team going, you go girl, you go guy, you get up at 4 a.m. and go out and do your run or whatever. We'd be excited. Now you're going to have to sleep in the other room because you ain't waking me up at 4 a.m. And there could have to be compromise there, seriously. So a story I tell in one of our books is about this very thing. This couple came in and they were taking our financial freedom course. And we worked through all of their expenses, and it came to the income increase, and they really cut their expenses down. And then the wife came in and our course said to the husband, you know what, I need to make a lot more money. If we're going to have a retirement and everything, you know, the money make is fine, but it's not enough for us to retire. So I want to propose going back to school and getting a degree, and I've done the research, and when I get the degree, this is what my income is going to be. He was jacked, so excited. When he saw the numbers, she was willing to kick butt, still be a mom to the kids, still work at her job and go to school at night. Now it meant 3 nights a week that she was going to be gone till 10 o'clock. And it worked for 2 weeks. And at the end of 2 weeks, they came in, and he was like over the top frustrated. That the 3 nights a week he had to take care of the kids, he had to make dinner, he had to do all this stuff. Now, before she went to school 3 nights a week till 10 o'clock, he was jazzed, so excited. But then once it happened and it disrupted his schedule, he got really pissed. So the very first thing she did when she saw his reaction on that day, she said, you know what, honey, it's not that important. I'll quit school and go back to, because it's more important that you're happy, which is a form of codependency, which I called out immediately in a loving way. I said, you know what, guys, geez, there seems to be something else we could do here. What was the goal? It's a big one, to be able to retire. If there's a big goal, it's going to demand big effort. Remember we talked about this a month ago? And when people make positive changes, that doesn't mean everyone's going to like them. Remember how we said that that's okay? And remember how we said there's an adjustment period? It could be 365 days of adjustment period, because this school is 3 years long. And he got it. Begrudgingly at first. But he did get it, and he did support her. But she was ready to let go of the dream right away. You know? So we have to get very solid. When you find your one thing, there's going to usually be some inconveniences on your part, and possibly family and friends, and so be ready. You know? Be ready. Any other comment did you have on Mary Lou?
It seems to me like the formula for guaranteed success is do that which I don't want to do 365 days in a row.
Yeah.
That is it. That's the formula. That's now.
A new life from a year from now.
I know, right? And that is it. But that's the simplistic formula. Do what you don't want to do for 365 days in a row, and your life will radically change. That's the formula. You're 100% correct. But it is never as easy as it sounds. As I've just given all these examples, you know, the person that wanted to quit going out to eat, you know, dessert, the husband and wife, you know, that decided this big goal is going to be worth it. You're 100% correct. It's not as easy as it sounds, though. Which is why, and this is why I say, if you go to Tony Robbins' courses or Gary Vee's courses or our courses or whatever, the course should never end on a weekend. This course goes for up to 45 days. You should be working 6 days a week on this course till you complete. Now, you might complete it sooner, right? But a course should never be 2 or 3 days long. I think that's an absolute waste of time. The odds of us changing in 2 or 3 days are so small. Now, if you did change radically something that you've held on to for 20 years in 2 or 3 days, I'd say that it's a miracle. But I want you to understand to put the time in. And then, as we say in the book that you get with the course, Positive Thinking Will Never Change Your Life, if you really want to guarantee your success, you'll go to the 3-day or 7-day or 14-day workshop, and then you'll have a professional waiting in the wing for you to start to work with every week when you get out of there. To reinforce the principles, to hold your feet to the fire, to do the work that you may not want to do. And that, to me, is really the ultimate plan. There's Byron Katie. I don't know if people have heard of Byron Katie. Byron Katie's been around a long time. Does phenomenal workshops. Like loving where you are is one of her big things. You know, like very similar to an Eckhart Tolle. Loving exactly where you are in this moment, because that should give you the power to move mountains. But if you don't appreciate and love where you are, it's going to be really hard. So I've had several of my clients that wanted to go out to Los Angeles to take her 7-day intensives. And they're expensive. I forget what the total was, but that's irrelevant. So I said to these clients, I totally applaud you for going. What you want to work on, you've been carrying for 30 years. If you think that's going to be enough, the odds are outrageously tiny it won't be. You can be immersed in a guru's energy for 7 days in a row or 14 or 21 days. It's not about the guru's energy. It's not about the teacher's energy. It's about, am I willing to do what I don't want to do for 365 days? How long does the motivation to change after attending any of these all-stars workshops, how long on average, Tony Robbins, Byron Katie, Gary Vee, how long do you think the average person comes home and does the work? Not study, I don't care about how excited you are in your brain. That doesn't, whatever. That doesn't mean anything to me. But if you come home and you go, holy crap, I've had this problem with business, relationships, addiction, money, spirituality for 25 years, how long do you think the motivation on average stays with someone to do the work they'd rather not do after an intensive workshop?
A week.
About a day.
A day. I love it, a day. I've done them. It lasted one freaking day.
But that's the knowledge, and then you gotta have the action.
Right. So, and you know what? And these, I'll call them gurus. You know, guru just means teacher, right? But these teachers have some really great freaking wisdom. Okay, like you can learn from all these people something magical. You really can. You know, from the Zig Ziglars to the Wayne Dyers to the Deepoks, all these people have amazing freaking wisdom. And they will give you great information in 3 to 7 days. Phenomenal information. But it's not enough. That awareness is beautiful. When you hit an aha moment, you go, oh my God, Deepak is so right. All I have to do is, you know, and you get all excited, and you come home and you tell your friends, and you tell you, oh my God, it was like life-changing.
Now change your life.
Now.
And then you go and eat cake.
And then you go and eat cake. That's to celebrate how much I learned. I'm going to have cake. I thought you were off cake. Yeah, but listen, I just came home from this incredible seminar. Okay, so we have 1 day,
A week.
a week. Any other guesses of how long your action steps will change from the motivation that you got with any of these teachers over a 3 or 7 day?
I don't think they will at all. I think it's the thinking that may shift, but the action, I don't know.
The awareness could shift short term, right? The awareness, and when I say short term, the awareness could be 2 weeks, 4 weeks, something like that.
2 hours.
You may
Yeah, could be.
feel a little better.
Yeah, you may,
a little-
but to actually apply it, right? So here's one of the problems with a lot of the teachers don't give you an outline to follow of action steps. So it could be what you said, Michaela. You could come home and do something. You could get up at 4:30 a.m. because that's the magical spiritual hour, according to some teachers. 4 o'clock or 4:30 in the morning is like when everything happens. Everything changes. The energy of God is more present at 4 a.m. somehow than at 8. I don't know, but that's what people tell us. And so you might come home and get up at 4 a.m. on the day after you get home from the workshop, right? But the odds of carrying the action steps past 7 days is unbelievably tiny. The most people usually carry a change in action after a really inspirational, motivational weekend or intensive is about 7 days at the most. But some people, it's just 1 day. They come home, they get up at 4 a.m. and the next day they go, what the hell was I thinking? Or their partner says, if you do that one more time, I'm divorcing you. If I hear that alarm go off at 4 a.m. again, you know, you're sleeping out in the guest house. Or I'm going to get a Winnebago and park it next to the house. I don't even want to hear the damn thing, you know? It's like... So the odds of changing are really small, which is another reason why we say to you, at the very least, go through the complete workshop or workbook every day, read the book, answer the questions at the end, because I want you to have some action steps to follow when you leave here. I don't want you just leaving here today and going, awesome, got it. Now I know my one thing. Now I know what to do. I'm good to go. Because it's not about what you know, it's about what you do. Now, after you go home and you complete the full manual again that you get with the course, and you go through the book, and remember, we do the manual first, and then we go to the book, and you read the book, and you answer every question at the end of each chapter. Do not read the book and go, I'm going to go back and answer the questions later. So many people do that, and they never go back. At the end of every chapter in the book, there's questions. There's lines. You don't even have to have a pad of paper. That's how easy we make it for you. There's lines in the book. Write your answers here before you go to the next chapter. When you're done completely refilling out the whole manual, reading the book and answering that, then what's the next step?
Apply it.
apply it where?
To your life,
To what?
whatever it is that you
The
have
one
to
thing.
do.
Thank you. Then you go after your one thing, okay? So you go through the manual, you go through the book, then you get your one thing out, and let's write down the formula for the one thing. The one thing is the thing I've denied, delayed, procrastinated for the longest period of time. The formula then is 6 days a week, a minimal of 1 hour of uncomfortable work a day for 365 days. Okay? The next step is having an accountability partner to hold your feet to the fire, to do that one thing 6 days a week that's uncomfortable 365 days in a row. That's the next step. The odds of us carrying it off on ourselves is pretty small. Some people might, most of us won't. We'll get to 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, we'll get to 6 months, and then we'll start to pull back. Because the subconscious is so powerful, we'll start coming up with excuses and justification and rationalization of why this Saturday or this Friday I'm not going to do it. And then it turns into this Friday and Saturday and Thursday, I'm not going to do it. And then it turns out to be, I'm really kicking butt on Mondays and Tuesdays, I'm just going to keep it there. And then all of a sudden we're lost momentum, right? Now, let me differentiate between the length of time someone needs to put into their one thing to change it. And I'm going to start with the smallest amount of time possible. If their one thing is meditation, I'm just going to make it really simple. Let's say they come up, they do all this work, and they say health is their one thing, and underneath it they put all these things about stress. And they go, I need to attack my stresses, and I need to learn how to meditate, to relax, to deep breathe, something. Believe it or not, if meditation happens to be your one thing, my goal for that person would be 6 days a week, 6 to 10 minutes a day, guided meditation. That would be my one thing for them. It seems like a really short period of time. If you've never meditated, it's one of the hardest habits in the world to get into. Especially for people in here, because you're all outrageously creative and driven, and you're curious, and your brain is maybe never shutting down, and it's one of the hardest things in the world to learn. So I would say you start off with 6 to 10 minutes of guided meditation. Now, like if you've never meditated, a great place to start is Headspace, the app Headspace. Just a real basic introduction to meditation. And then you could go and find a CD or a podcast where it gets longer and longer and longer. And then after you've mastered 20 to 30 minutes of meditation on your own, you get off of the guided, off of the voice, and you follow a mantra or your breathing. And then we recommend to go to the next level to get involved with something like Transcendental Meditation, where you'd actually go away for 3 days and go through the certification process and really, to me, it is the Mac Daddy of meditation is Transcendental Meditation. To me, and I've gone through almost every form of meditation out there in 40 years, and to me, there's nothing that can compare to TM. The reason why is that the act of meditation should be to get to know thought, where that you're lost in the divine or in space or whatever word you want to use. And TM, because the mantra that they teach you has no physical meaning in this world, there's nothing for the conscious mind to attach to. So if you're using a mantra like love or God or one, and you're breathing in and you're saying one or God or love, there's a definition for those words, which means now we're conscious. We're not going to no thought. You're in a conscious space. You're repeating something that has a meaning. To me, that's the beauty of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who is so far and still is so far ahead of everyone else in the world. Well, he's no longer with us, but his teachings are, is because he taught us how to get to no thought, or marriage with the divine, if you want to get spiritual, or marriage with the universe, or you're in this zone, and when you come out of this space, you are altered. You're on a drug. You're in an altered experience. It is a drug. After TM, I have to take myself back slowly into the physical world. Like you can't just get up. If you get up, you're going to fall over. So you slowly come back to reality. It's like unbelievable. But here's an example of a one thing that might be 4 to 5 minutes a day. Isn't that fascinating? And then let's say that you want to expand your business career. and you want to do something and create something that you've never created before. And that might be 6 hours a day, 6 days a week. To be able to write the book, expand the business, start a new business, like network marketing, you know, because lots of people love to talk about the power of network marketing. Hey, if you're willing to follow Ray Higdon, and if for all of our people that want to know more about network marketing, join Ray Higdon's group. I think he's the best network marketer I've ever met, without a doubt. I love him. He will tell you, and he posted this the other day on, I don't know if it was Instagram or something, is that quit worrying about the money, worry about your work effort. You know, he's so real, you know, because of his story that I told yesterday. This guy went out after 20 no's a day, 5 days a week for a year and a half in order to change his financial situation. And it was 2 years when it really changed. Isn't that interesting that we're teaching the same thing, you know, like what it took for him to turn his life? So you want to expand something radical? If you want to lose, Evelyn Keeling, you want to lose 200 pounds plus or 100 pounds plus, and if you think you're going to get away with your one thing of being a half an hour a day of exercise, now you might start there because of problems with your knees or whatever, right? But in actuality, if you want to radically lose weight, you got to change every freaking thing about your life. You have to start learning how to do meal preps on weekends so your meals are made during the week so you don't have to, oh my God, I don't have lunch or dinner, I'm just going to stop hearing. All of a sudden the subconscious is saying, listen, you didn't have time last night. We can just swing into the fast food joint just for today.
You get the salad.
And we'll get the salad and we'll put on extra dressing so the brain gets the pleasure center hit of sugar and salt and fat and white flour, and then we're right back to our addiction. So if you have a lot of weight to lose, you're trying to change a health condition, it could be 2 hours a day, 6 days a week. Minimally. Does that make sense? You know? So if you want to change your financial situation, you're going to record, if you look at the work that we do, you're going to record every penny you spend in a notebook or on Mint or an app on your phone. You're going to put what the amount was, the time of day. You're going to put what you bought, and next to it you're going to put was it a want or a need. And you're not going to judge yourself. You're just going to go through day after day after day, 7 days a week, every penny you spend. And then at the end of the week, you're going to go back if you want, and you're going to write next to what expenses you purchased were wants and what were needs, right? Like that's just one step of changing your finances. So depending on your one thing, it can be 6 minutes a day to begin, or it can be 2 hours a day, or it could be 6 hours a day. You know? It's kind of cool that if you want to change your life, there's going to be a major commitment.
Discipline.
Yeah, it's a lot about discipline, right? Mm-hmm. So, okay, yes.
I also, the statement that writing things down decreases stress dramatically, that was, seemed very valuable to me. And it helps shows patterns too.
Yeah.
Writing things down.
We'll say remove stuff from your head, so it's like removing it.
Remove
Yes.
Space for something
Thank
to
you.
Oh.
I like
That stuff.
that,
Hamster wheel.
Yeah, exactly. So when you write down, it does decrease stress. Whatever we leave in our brain, you know, there's analogies. The Buddhists say it's 10,000 monkeys in a cell. Like that's a great analogy for our crazy thoughts. You know, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to do that. No. You know, and then when you put it on paper.
Oh, I should have done. That's even worse.
What's that?
I should have done.
I should have
That's even
done.
worse.
Yeah.
I got the procrastination monkey.
Yes.
Yeah, the procrastination monkey.
I'm with you.
I know, right? So, or a dog chasing its tail is another analogy. When you leave things up here, it goes round and round and round.
So the subconscious mind is just, can I talk to it? Do I treat it as an enemy or a friend? To me, it's just, that's such a struggle.
Yeah. You can talk to it all you
Because
want.
After years of bad habits, you suddenly
No.
have to change everything. And so, as you say, subconscious is revolting. So, no. You can have this. Or you can behave this way.
Yeah. So you can talk, okay. So when we think about like subliminal training, you put on a subliminal CD in the background, and underneath the waves there's a voice that says, I am calm, or I am healthy, or I am wealthy, or I am successful, or I am an independent person versus codependent. You can get these subliminal CDs and play them in the background. So does that change the subconscious pattern? And what I say to people, if putting a CD in while you're working or driving your car changes an addiction or a codependency or something like that, then that's called a miracle. Because the odds of it happening are pretty small. Now, that doesn't mean don't do it. I just say do it as an adjunct tool. Like I say, Reiki is an adjunct tool to change. I don't believe Reiki's going to heal a busted knee. And if it did, or it's not going to heal a sprained ankle. If it did, long term, if you went to a Reiki session or 2 or 3 or 4 and you had a sprained ankle and the next day you got up and went and ran a marathon, I'm not going to say that's Reiki, I'm going to say that's a miracle. But that doesn't mean Reiki can't be beneficial. Acupuncture can be beneficial. I've used all of these things a lot and nothing has ever changed on. I used hypnotherapy for 52 straight weeks to shatter my addiction to alcohol in 1988. And I drank every week right through the whole thing. And I had a phenomenal practitioner, okay? I'll never forget this guy. He was a doctor. He had studied hypnotherapy he was extremely well renowned. Now, did it feel good during the sessions? Yes. Did I walk out of there outrageously relaxed? Yes. Did I walk out of there thinking that I didn't need alcohol? Yes. And 2 hours later, I was drinking. Did it help at all? Sure. It helped me feel relaxed for those times that I was there, and I wouldn't say don't do hypnotherapy, but what I say to everyone, Reiki, hypnotherapy, acupuncture, subliminal CDs, use them as adjunct tools. Use them as support systems, but then go do the freaking work that you don't want to do. And then together, we can get motivation from crystal bowl healing. We have crystal bowl healing in the house playing. We have CDs of, Marcy Ham is a friend of mine. She went through a near-death experience, and when she came out of it, she had this massive download that her purpose in life was to create this certain kind of music and tones to change the brain. And she used it on herself because she had a severe brain injury. And she came back with it. So then she started creating all these CDs, and I have them all in my house. I interviewed her many times on the show, and I play them. And I love it. Has it changed my life? I don't think so, but it hasn't hurt me, And it's nice to have that soothing music in the background. When I get up at night to go to the bathroom, it's still playing, and it's like, oh, it's so nice. Now, I don't think it's healed anything from me, but I like it. So if you use acupuncture or Reiki or crystal bowl healing or any of the other magical energy healing techniques out there, use them as support and as adjunct opportunities to heal. But don't expect them to change your life. Use them as tools. It's like coming to this seminar. Don't expect this seminar to change your life. As everyone gets up and leaves. What the hell am I doing here for? Use it. But if you use the tools in your life on a daily basis for 365 days, expect it to change your life. Does that make sense? So you walk out of here tonight, don't expect your life to be changed. If it is changed, that's a miracle. Accept it. Maybe walk out and go, all right, I'm ready for me to be totally changed right now. Bam! If it happens, then put all over the internet, David Essel's 2-day course radically changed my life, okay? And have millions of people start coming in to take the course because they want to do 2 days of this stuff and have it change their life. And if it happened, I'd say unbelievable. Remember, I told the story of the monastery. I was there for 4 days and my knee healed, and that is a miracle. That was but I did the work. I went and I did all the participation and everything else, But I didn't go there to have my knees healed. I went there to have them healed 10%. It's all I wanted. I just wanted 10% less pain. If anything else came, it was a benefit. How that happened was unbelievable. And actually, I have the story on YouTube, and I've gotten emails from several of the monks saying that the number of people that have come to St. Leo's Abbey north of Tampa because they watched the video, they were very appreciative of it, And I can't say it would happen to anyone else, I don't know. But put yourself out there for new experiences, hope for the best, and then go do the work. I love it. Okay, anything else before we move on?
So back to your question, reprogramming would be with action.
Yeah. So 20% of our massive change in life will come from thought processes, unless it's a miracle. If it's a miracle, 100% of change will come from your thought process. Do we understand that concept? Right? If it's a miracle and you put out into the universe, I want X, and X comes to you without any physical effort, that's a miracle. On average, 20% of our changes will come from our thoughts. 80% will come from what we do. And again, if we look at, so have I told the story of Susie Orman?
No.
So Susie Orman, all you guys know, financial guru, you know, she had been working really hard for 10 years, never made very much money in the early part of her career, and then one year it broke wide open. And when I interviewed her on the show, I asked the same question that I ask everyone else: what one thing in your life that's ever happened to you that's blown your mind and changed you forever? And this is what she said, is that she finally made enough money, she went on vacation, she came back blonde, beautiful, bronzed, only to find out that her office manager had embezzled every penny to her name. So she had worked for years and years, finally had a breakthrough, comes back totally broke. Went out and did the same work that she was doing before she left and couldn't get traction. And she went to a counselor, and the counselor said, you've got to forgive the office manager. And to her at that time, it seemed insane. I'm not going to forgive someone who's embezzled every penny of my life and put me in this outrageously difficult financial situation. And as we're talking on the show, she said, David, the person I went to told me to do what you tell your clients all the time. Remove the resentment before you add, right? It's like forgive, remove, forgive, and then move forward. And she said when she finally decided to go back and do the work to forgive the office manager, everything changed again with her finances. And then she became a #1 bestseller, television shows, radio shows, and everything else. But the block was the lack of forgiveness, or we could say the block was the anger, resentment, rage, etc. Right? So, quite fascinating. Quite fascinating. And if in the world of dating or relationships, if we still have resentments against someone that's mistreated us in the past, it's right here today in our current relationship. It's right here. It's underneath the surface, but there's a small block to your heart. We're not wide open. Can't be. The #1 thing we have to do is remove. And sometimes, like, you know, we've worked with people where there's been serious incest, rape. There's been someone I worked with whose husband cheated on her 100 times in I don't know how many years. There's, I mean, all kinds of, you know, there's women that have raped their husband's bank accounts without them knowing about it. A recent one I think I might have told a little bit about yesterday, but, you know, this woman who was married for years and years and years, and she finds out that, you know, her husband had forged her name to all these financial documents and had taken all this money that she didn't know he had taken. And as I'm still working with her now, and she had an opportunity to go out on a date, and I said to her, and she did go out on the date, and afterwards she said, I am not ready at all. I said, good for you to see that, you know? And until he's forgiven 100%, we're not ready to date. Now, we can date and marry and get in relationships, but there's always going to be this block. We're not going to let those people in fully. Remove, add. Now, you're in a relationship, and you hear me saying this, and you go, oh my God, when this person did this 25 years ago, if I saw them today, I'd kick them. We got to get rid of that stuff, because we're not fully present right now. You can't be. If you have a resentment here, it's here, it's here, it's here. It'll be with you for the rest of your life. I tell a story in our brand new book, Focus, about a woman that I had dated that had taken a lot of money from me, and when the relationship ended, I didn't know for a couple years how pissed off I was. I wasn't paying attention to it. But when someone would bring up her name, I go, oh man, And I said, David, you got to do some work here. And I did. And I worked and it's a lot of work. It took me 8 months to totally forgive her for what had happened. And now she calls me for help with her current relationships, and I say, absolutely. Let me know how I can help you. And her current boyfriend has called me for help, and I said, sure, let me help you. You know, and that's how I know that I have no resentments left at all. But it was removed, right? And here's the funny thing. The subconscious is telling me all along, oh, no. She did that to you. That was wrong. You do not let her off the hook. But forgiveness is letting ourselves off the hook, as we know so well. You've heard that all the time. Forgiveness is not about the other person. It's about us being clear and clean, and I'll be working with her this week to help her on something that she needs help with her relationship, you know. And it's great. But it proves to me that I've done the work and it's worked. Because if I didn't do the work, I'd be saying, are you kidding me? You want my help? $1,000 for 15 minutes. Sure, I can work with you for $1,000 for 15 minutes. But it's just like, yeah, just let me know how I can help you. And that's where I want all of us to be. And we can all get there if we do the work. And maybe that's our one thing. You know, when we look at that list, relationship with self, move down, forgive this person who did X, like, you know, it's like, I just saw Jason. You know, Friday the 13th. It's like, I just saw Jason. Forgive that person. I can't forgive them. They don't deserve it. It's not about what they deserve. It's about us being clear and clean and free. It's the same thing when I talk about, like, when we look at relationship with self, do we have shame or guilt over something, in a way that we treated someone in the past? Like, are we the person that did something wrong? Did we cheat on someone? Did we abuse someone emotionally? Did we lie? That's an us thing. And I don't think anyone should carry shame and guilt today for anything in the world. And if you are, you have to do the work to get rid of it. Unless you're currently still screwing that person over, unless you're still doing something that creates shame and guilt, I don't think anyone should have any shame and guilt at all. It's a lot of work, though. So much of this is a lot of work, and it's all worth it. When you can be free of shame and guilt, and you can think of something that happened in your past and talk about it factually without emotion, you're free. Yeah, I remember doing that. Wasn't a real good move. Glad I don't do that anymore. But I'm not attached to it. It's not my identity. It's not my story. Remember yesterday we were talking about stories? We can have stories that we still feel ashamed and guilty of doing something. We can have stories lacking forgiveness, still anger, resentment against someone that hurt us. Could be a family member, could be a partner, could be a former best friend. You know, these are all stories. And the longer we carry the story, the more it's our identity. And we create it. And, you know, on the Daily Boost, we have a video coming out this week. Can you be addicted to sadness? Can you be addicted to depression? Can you be addicted to anxiety? And the answer is yes. You can create an identity around depression to get attention. You can talk about how depressed you are to get attention. You can create a whole identity around depression, anxiety, around any condition whatsoever to create a story and identity and to get attention. Oh, you still struggling with that? God, that must be hard. Yeah, it really sucks. You don't understand. Wow, I just can't believe it. Yeah, I know, it's really hard. And all of a sudden we have this story. Just like people create identities and stories around, if you're spiritual, it's okay to struggle financially. That's part of the spiritual path. I hear this a lot. Now, if you want to struggle and you think that's a fun time, go ahead. If it brings you great joy to say, I'm struggling financially and God wants me to struggle, well, if that's your belief system, go for it. I personally find it kind of oxymoronic. I kind of think if God is up there looking down, he's going, oh, God, would you please get it and get abundant? Like, I really want you to be happy. I don't want you stressed out over me. You know? But people create identities, right? And stories, and they carry the story forward that to be wealthy is to be greedy, and, you know, to be, you know, in shape and have a great body, excuse me, is a show-off. It's being a show-off. You know, all these are our stories and our identities. So yesterday we left off at what are stories, right? That was a homework assignment in your manual. Is that where we left off? and then we went to story versus an experience. Is that true? Do you remember how do we change a story of I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I need to be shameful and guilty, I need to be resentful, I need to struggle financially, how do we change those stories?
Create the
An experience
experience.
that
Prove it
proves
wrong.
otherwise.
Okay, say it, Dan.
Create experiences that prove that wrong.
Okay, same thing?
And document it.
And document it, right? So how do you create an experience to prove that you don't have to suffer financially and be a good spiritual person? What would the steps of experience be to shatter that? So number one, Google it. Okay. Okay, here we go. Okay. Don't make this shit complicated, okay? So what you do is you Google, can spiritual people be wealthy? I want examples of spiritual people who are wealthy. You know who comes to mind right off the top is Domino's, Tom Monahan, the founder of Domino's, who opened up Ave Maria University and Ave Maria, the town of it, down by Naples, Florida. Now, I don't know him at all, but I do know that he was a deeply religious, spiritual man who created millions upon millions upon millions of dollars and then made a university based on. So that to me is just one quick example of someone who's spiritual and wealthy, or religious and wealthy. So you want to Google to see if it's possible, and I mean that sincerely, right? You want to have proof that it's possible. Is it possible? And if Google comes back and says, there's never been one person wealthy who's deeply spiritual or religious, you go, okay, well, there's my answer. Well, my guess is you're going to find a lot of examples of people that are very spiritual or religious who are extremely wealthy. Okay? So number one is we want to have facts to prove that this is true. Then number two would be what? What would be another step to change that mindset about if I'm spiritual, I must be poor and suffer? Where did this come from? Who taught me this story? Would be number two.
Find the story.
Find the source. Was it something my mom and dad said around the dinner table all the time? Was it something my aunt and uncle talked about? Was it something we want to find, where did this come from? Was it, I attended some seminar, or I attended a church, or I attended where the preacher or the minister or the priest was hammering home the need to suffer. The need, if you're a good person and you're a religious person, you must suffer. Give us your money so you suffer. We'll handle it for you. There's no interest, there's no return. It's okay if you suffer as long as we get your money, we're fine. You know, I've heard people, now Deepak says it in a really interesting way. He says, to live in abundance, tithe. Tithing means, give a certain percentage of your income to. But he said, it doesn't have to be to a church. It doesn't have to be to a spiritual, or it can be to a nonprofit. Right? Like something you believe, big brothers, big sisters. He said, don't get stuck into this mindset that if you're tithing, it has to be to some spiritual organization or religion. Give to the charity of your choice. Right? I think that's a pretty cool way to look at it. I love some of his teachings, I think are amazing. And the other thing is, he said, don't get hung up on the amount. Because if you look at the teachings of many organizations, they say, well, 10% to stay where you are, 15% of your tithing to move forward a little bit, 20% of your income to move forward even more, 30% if you really want it. Here's the wildest thing, and remember, as a former pastor and a current minister, I can tell you this, it's all a bunch of crap. If you're tithing to get something out of it, you're not tithing. If you're tithing to make more money, you ain't tithing, baby. You have an agenda. That's called an agenda. Pure tithing means you give without expectation of receiving. That's pure tithing. But in our psychobabble, spiritual babble world, abundance ministers come out and they say, like, if you give, you shall receive. That ain't true. You might receive, but there's no guarantee that you give 10% of your income that you're going to get 20% back, and they teach these formulas. To me, absolutely insane. But we want to find experiences. Where did the source come from? And then we have to walk into the uncomfortable action steps. To have an experience, we have to say, I'm going to move forward by doing X to be a spiritual and wealthy person. And then I would say, let's first start by cutting expenses that aren't necessary, so your current income has more value, right? Because we've already done the belief work. Where did this teaching come from? You know, religious class, a church, my family, where did it come from that you have to suffer to be spiritual, religious? And then you have proof that other people have been very religious and very spiritual and they're very wealthy, so that's cool that we have proof that that happens. And then we say, okay, now I need to do something different. So instead of spending money that isn't necessary, let's start using my money and handling it better. These are all experiences to change that mindset that you have to suffer to be spiritual. They're all experiential steps, right? And we could go through this with any example in the world that you're trying to break an old story. Under the current administration, it's really hard to make money. I've heard that in every administration since I started this work 40 years ago. You know, it's like, so that's a story. Because in every administration, there's people that have become very successful, right? So it's not necessarily the administration's fault. But people will use that as a reason not to do the work 365 days in a row, X amount of hours per day, right? Okay, next. How have the stories manifested? This is a homework assignment. So whatever your stories are that you wrote on the page before that's holding you back regarding codependency, money, addiction, relationships, career, spirituality, whatever stories that you're going to write about that are holding you back, whatever beliefs that you have that are holding you back, which are stories, right? Beliefs are stories. I want you to write how they've manifested. How are they appearing in your life? That's what manifestation means. How are these stories appearing today? Am I still procrastinating? Am I still struggling financially? Am I still struggling in relationships? Am I still struggling with my weight? Am I still struggling with my identity of why the hell I'm on earth? What my purpose is, right? So that would be how they're manifesting today. Questions on that? You know, Dan, I think of you working with your staff in real estate, and, you know, there's so many stories that, when I call real estate agents entrepreneurs, right? And so network marketers, you know, everyone that works, you know, on commission basis is basically an entrepreneur. So where are these, you know, with your agents that are struggling? You know, like, what are their stories? You know, how are they manifesting, right? What about with your children, if you have children? Do they say, like, I'm not creative and I'm not funny and I don't fit in and I don't... Where did that story come from, and how are they manifesting? You know, it's great to work with kids with this too. When, you know, until I was 30, I didn't think I had a creative bone in my body. Now, there's a good news and a bad news to that. My whole life I was championed for athletics. And the great news, I mean, you know, I had supportive family. God, they did everything possible to bring me to basketball camps and everything else. So I was supported. But no one ever asked me, and I'm not blaming my parents or anyone, about being more creative. So I just took on my own story that I was athletic but not creative. And then I finally shattered it at 30. And thank God. Because a whole new world opened up to me that I didn't even know was possible, you know? So we can have a story that I'm good with money, but I suck with relationships, or I'm good with relationships, but I suck with money, or I'm good with this, but I suck with that. And whatever we think we suck at could probably be a pretty big lie that we're telling ourselves. I'm not persistent. I'm impatient. These are just stories. And remember what to do if you're impatient. Get in the right-hand lane, find the slowest car, and bless them.
I was trying to do it last night.
You could. I was trying to do it last night. It is. I'll tell you, it's hard, isn't it? Isn't that really hard? If you're an impatient driver, to get in the right-hand lane. Oh my God.
Sometimes they're on the left lane.
Okay, you're right. Well, in the state of Florida, they can be in every lane.
It's insane.
I know. There is not a lane that is safe in the state of Florida. No, they can.
Finger shoes.
Well, you know what I find? Staying topical here. On 75, where it gets to be 3 lanes, you can have people in the far left lane going 69, you know? And it's like, I remember, now I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say it. I only did it one time. I was driving to see my mom and dad in Lakeland. I'm in the left lane. There's 4 cars going like 69, 70 in the left-hand lane. And then there's cars in the middle lane going 68, and then there's cars in the right lane going 67. And I texted on Facebook, to all drivers on Route 75 going north towards Lakeland, if you're in the left-hand lane, minimal speed limit is 100 miles per hour. Thank you. And I put it on Facebook. You know, I was so frustrated and sitting there going, please. And I couldn't swerve and dive and dance and do. I was trapped. You know.
You were boxed in.
I was boxed in. So that was something I had to work on back then. Thank God I've mastered it. Okay, and then the very last part of. I know.
Voice texting.
Yes, that's what I did. I voice texted it. That's exact. I would never text. I thank you for catching me. Okay, then what are the solutions to the stories? All right, this is a very simple formula. Number 1, write down the stories that aren't working. So that you can really see them in detail. What are the stories that aren't working in detail? Number 2, create experiences in the physical world via action steps to shatter the stories.
Create experience.
Yep, create experiences in the physical world via action steps. So this isn't thought processes. Experiences, when you're creating an experience to shatter a story, this has nothing to do with your thinking. You're not going to think your way to shatter a story. Right? So you create experiences in the physical world through action steps that are, of course, going to be uncomfortable in order to alter the story. Number 3 is going to be write how these stories are manifesting today. How are they holding you back? How are they alive and well today? And this story is that I'm insecure, I'm not a good public speaker, I have high social anxiety. These are all stories. You can have high social anxiety and need some form of medication, but it's going to be a lot. Medication is not going to heal social anxiety. Medication doesn't heal depression. Medication doesn't heal freaking hardly anything. Now, medication may get you over the hump, and it may give you an edge to overcome something, but it doesn't do the work. You got to do work plus medication and eventually hopefully get off the medication. The only times we talk about not getting off medications, it would be bipolar or schizophrenia or something like that. We tell people don't even dick around with getting off medication. But even with schizophrenia and with bipolar, you've got to have action steps to help deal with those conditions on top of the medication, right? So this is how we change and we come to solutions with stories. Low self-confidence. You know, we teach a public speaking certification. And so here's a great story. Speaking of stories. So this woman comes to me and she's worked for this company that works with the NFL. And it's a pretty major corporation, obviously, to work with the NFL. And she had been with the company for 20 years and had been in this lower level. She started off an administrative assistant, moved up into the marketing department. But it's kind of like a lower level marketing position. And then her boss came to her one day and said, you know, you have everything we need to be the marketing director of this huge company. But there's something holding you back. You can't present. And because you can't present, we can't give you the position of director of marketing. And if you want to make a huge leap in your career, you have to become a public speaker. Because in our company, as you see, the director of marketing is out speaking to groups all the time. And she shut down immediately. She said, there's no way I can do that. So he said, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put you through a public speaking course with David Essel. And if you go through the course, it's 10 weeks long. If you go through the course and you come out and you can be a public speaker, you're going to get the director of marketing position at this company. Now, you can walk out of this office and say, I'm not going to take the course, or you can give it a shot. I have faith in you. I think this is the only thing missing, the one thing that is keeping you from doing what you're doing. So she reluctantly showed up. And this is when I was teaching a course at a university here in town. So there was several people in the class that were forced to be there, kind of like court ordered. You know, their bosses made them come. And she came up to me the very first time and said, I shouldn't be here. I'm only here because my boss thinks that I could pass this course and become the director of marketing, but David, you have your hands full. There's no way I'm ever gonna be able to do this course. And I said, I'll tell you what, just for 10 weeks, take that belief that you can't do it and just put it somewhere else. I don't know where, but don't bring it in this room. You can go home and tell all the people you want that you'll never pass this course, but the minute you walk in this door, I don't want that belief, because I don't have time for that, and you don't either. Let's just have fun. And I'm gonna make this class fun. And we had a freaking blast. Everyone in that class had so much fun, and most of them were not there because they wanted to be, okay? Which makes it really fun for me. I have a group of people that don't want to see me. Yay! Within 3 weeks, she was the star of the class. Within at the end of 10 weeks, she got the director of marketing position at her company. Her one thing had held her back for over 20 years. You know? And the only thing that changed the story was experience. Action steps into the uncomfortable. And I'll never forget her, you know? I'll never forget. I mean, we've taken a lot of people through that course, and I'll never forget her. She was such a rock star, you know, so proud of her. That's an example of stories. Taking experience, rocking the old belief system and coming out of it. And this was 10 weeks long. Like I say, 365 days, but I mean, sometimes miracles happen. It's only 2.5 months. So whatever you're carrying right now, just know it can be dismantled. You know? Okay, next page is homework assignment. The next page is homework. Okay, so next page, at the very bottom, the movie Transformers. A certain percentage of people that take this course are going to watch this movie and go, this is the stupidest movie in the world. It's a bunch of freaking robots that turn into cars. Megan Fox is hot as hell. She is absolutely stunning, which is why I want you to watch her. I just think she's worth the whole price of admission, okay? Just keep your eyes focused on Megan Fox and you'll be fine. And if you don't like women and you like guys, as Shia LaBeouf is, you know, a pretty decent looking guy, you can just focus on him, okay? The whole thing is objectification of the male and female body. That's the whole purpose. I just want you to objectify the heck out of it. I'm just teasing. Okay, so in all seriousness, the movie is one of the most powerful movies showing personal transformation. The wild thing is, they did what most of us take 365 days to do, and they did it in 2.5 hours. I mean, it's freaking incredible. They did it in 2.5 hours. But it is one of the most beautiful movies on transformation. And so in your definition of it after you watch it, how did Shia LaBeouf, what were his major transformations? So he starts at X and ends at Z, right? Megan Fox starts at X and ends at Z. How did they radically change? What were the major transformations? That's what I want you to look at. Now, here's an added homework assignment to write into your manual. I want you to do the same exercise on you. I want you to write about the transformations you've made in your own life, okay? How you went from being nervous to being on the dance floor with tango to rocking the tango dance floor. Ella. I want you to think about the first time you did X and how it scared the pants out of you, and all of a sudden now you love it. Like, that's a major transformation. I want you to talk about how you grew up as an insecure blah, 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 blah to do X. I want you to talk about how you overcame a hellacious divorce relationship to become hopefully forgiving and grounded in your new space. I want you to write about how you used to be X amount of weight and you're here now. I want you to write about how you used to be an alcoholic or an addict and you're here now. I want you to not only look at the outside world as being amazing and incredible with all these stories we tell, I want you to look at yourself. Okay? How you went from this little insecure girl in England to this world traveler going into countries where we don't freaking know people and rocking it, Michaela. I want you to write about how we do these things, right? I want you to be proud of your own stories and how you change them from a story of lack to a story of abundance, okay? It's one of the coolest exercises I can give you. Now, this also ties in with your homework assignment of every night writing about the 3 or 4 things you're doing well and proud of, right, to your challenges. Like, just see how we're tying this all together? We need really constant reinforcement to keep growing. We need that reinforcement. Look what I overcame. Look what I overcame. Look what I overcame. And it's ongoing for the rest of your life. It should never change. Okay, on the next page, we talk about ethics of coaching. Now, ethics, this could be ethics of parenting, ethics of friendship, ethics of partnership, ethics of business. When you talk about ethics, I'm going to talk about ethics of being a coach, but it's the same thing. If we talk about the ethics of being a great friend, a great lover, a great parent, a great coworker, a great business owner, a great whatever, right? Ethics are ethics. So number one of the hardest things in the world, 100% honesty always. That's the first ethic of life.
To yourself. Honest with yourself.
Honest with yourself
Period.
and
Honest
Anyone
period.
else?
honest with everyone else too. It's one of the hardest things in the world to be. Why is it so? Yeah, I mean, you have to be honest with yourself. Absolutely. You got to be willing to call yourself out and say, this is where you're a dickhead. And you have to be able to call yourself out in honesty and say, this is where you rock. Right? You're just being honest. Like, man, do I need to change X? And boy, have I really changed Y? You're just being honest with yourself. But it also means carrying it out into the world and being honest with everyone else. And that's the hardest thing for most of us to do. Why? Because of what?
Judgment of others?
Begins with a C, ends with a Y.
Congruent.
Codependency.
And congruent.
Well, yeah, congruency would be, yeah, if you're congruent, you're independent. If you're non-congruent, and if you have a hard time being honest with others, we're codependent. So the number one block to being honest with others is a fear of rejection, fear of judgment, fear of criticism, fear of abandonment. We're craving to be liked, craving to be accepted, craving to be loved, craving to be included, craving to be validated. And so that leads to dishonesty. All of codependency leads to dishonesty. We're afraid that people aren't going to like us if we're honest, that they may not want to hang out with us if we're honest. It's not an easy path. The very first ethics of life, honesty, is not an easy path. Second is, a lot of these are going to be tied in together, is that we are congruent. Now, identical to congruency is number 3, is that we have integrity. Right? Integrity and congruency are almost identical. Congruency means consistency. We always do what we say we're going to do. We're congruent, right? And integrity means we walk our talk. So it's really easy to give other people great freaking advice. You know, we can be a rock star telling other people how to live their life, but we may not be, which means that we're not in integrity. Integrity means we walk our talk. So if we tell someone else to do X, then we're doing X. You know, children is a great example. Tell our children, whatever you do, never lie. And then that means,
We lie about Santa.
what's that?
We lie about Santa.
Yeah, and then, right, oh, we lie about Santa, yeah.
Uh-oh, you just
It's
said
out.
that one.
It's, I know, it's now Facebook Live has been exposed to the truth about Santa. Our clients at home taking the course have been exposed to the truth about Santa. Well,
That's a big one.
Yeah. 100% honest.
yeah.
They wear green and not red.
Oh, there you go. The truth is he wears green and not red.
There's the truth.
Okay, now the cat's out of the bag. All right. What other ethics in life would come underneath this category? We're creating this so we have honesty, integrity, congruency. What else?
Authenticity.
I'm sorry? Okay, authenticity, right? We are who we are, which means that if we hate suits, if we love bow ties, if we love wearing purple hats, and you guys have heard about the purple hat ladies, right? They're all over the country. There are groups of older women that get together usually to raise money for foundations. They all wear these really outrageous purple hats, and they'll come flooding into a restaurant, and there'll be 20 of them at a table, and they're all wearing like outrageous clothes and hats and everything. Like, they're very authentic, you know. They want to stand out. They want to be recognized. And then when people say, what are you wearing purple hats for? We're raising money for this nonprofit. Would you like, you know? It's a cool little way to be authentic and stand out. On Instagram, I see these pictures of these little old ladies like with tattoos. I see these pictures of little old ladies with like outrageous clothes, you know, and doing outrageous things. And some people say, oh, they're just showing off. And other people go, no, they're just authentic. They don't care what you think, right? So part of ethics on top of authenticity would be being independent versus codependent. Are you living an independent life? An independent life basically says, I really don't care if you accept me or not. Now, I'm not saying that in a nasty way. I'm just saying it in an authentic way. This is who I am. Accept me or not. You know? So, ever since, you know, gays and lesbians and transgenders and bisexuals have slowly come out of the closet, that's an example of authenticity, right? That's an example of being independent. I was on well, they call it queer now, you know, and when I grew up, queer was something totally different, but I was on a queer radio show in San Francisco. One of the coolest guys, he's transgendered, he is such a sweetheart, she is such a sweetheart. And we were talking, and I was on around Christmas time, and I said, she was asking me about, in the clients I've worked with that are transgendered, what do they do for Christmas? And I said, you know, it's really fascinating. Some stop going home because it turns out to be this outrageous, judgmental 3 or 4 or 7 days. And so some don't go home. Some go home and stay with friends and go to their families on Christmas Day for 2 or 3 hours, and that's all they can handle. And some go and put up with the abuse for days and days and days on end. And she was even telling me how one of her uncles continues to mock her as she goes home over the holidays. But she made a decision that she's going to wear her wigs and her dresses and everything else, and that anyone can say whatever they want to say. She doesn't take it personally anymore. But she told me it took her years to get to that space. But now she's so authentic, you can say whatever you want, you're not going to get a reaction out of me. You know, pretty powerful, right? Independent versus codependent. And I want to say something, and she asked me my opinion, and I said to her, you know what, I support people that don't go home anymore. I support people that go home for 45 minutes. I support people that go and sit in the fire and don't respond. I support every example you just gave me. I support all those people. And the people that decide to move away from their family, I support them just as much as those that'll go home. Because that's what they need to do. So let's support them. You know, that's being an independent person versus codependent. And then that seems like an extreme example. I have a woman I'm working with right now that's decided this year not to go home for Christmas because the last 2 Christmases her mom has done nothing but tear her apart in really subtle satirical ways, you know, like jokes here and there. And she's asked her mom for 2 straight years not to make those comments, and the mom, so she sent her a note. Said, hey, because of the last 2 years of you with your little digs and put downs, I'm not coming home this year. And her mom's response was, oh, you know, honey, I love you, I was just teasing, you know, all that. And she said, that's okay, I'm not coming home this year. And I said, now that's being authentic, independent, you know? It might be enough to shake her mom up, or it might not. But it's not about her mom. It's about her doing what's right for her. So all of these ethics are crucially important if you're going to be a counselor, a coach, a massage therapist, a business owner, an author of books, or a parent, a friend. These ethics are crucial, you know? Questions? It's just the pathway to lead the best life possible. Now here's something that I want to just, because it sounds so pretty and it's in a box and we have a pink bow on it right now, to follow these things seems so rocking. If you're not following all of these, and you start to, don't expect the world to applaud you. If you start living your authentic self, your independent self, your honest self, do not expect the world to think that you're a rock star. For a couple of reasons. Number one, if you haven't led this kind of a really life at this level, then you might be shaking up the relationships that you're in and they may not like you anymore. Because you're honest. Because you're not doing what they expected you to do because you were doing it for so long. You're not going along with everything. You're not laughing at insensitive jokes. You're not whatever, right? And so don't expect the world to applaud you because you're independent, authentic, honest, etc. Lots of times the world doesn't like people who are authentic and ethical, and, you know, we don't like those people. And if you think about, I mean, how did Mahatma Gandhi die? He was murdered by a follower with a gun. Follower shot him and killed him. If you know anything about Mahatma Gandhi, he would save a cockroach if it was in your house. He'd be in your house, you'd go, oh my God, a cockroach, I have to kill that thing. He'd say, oh, no, wait a second. Wait a second. She has babies somewhere. She has babies, or she's gonna have them. Let's scoop her up and put her outside. You know, like that was Mahatma Gandhi, right? So, could he have done anything in the world to encourage someone to kill him? He was authentic, he was honest, he was, you know. And let me tell you an amazing story about Mahatma Gandhi. So, we remember him as a peacemaker, but he wasn't always a peacemaker. So he was from India, he became an attorney, became very wealthy, living in England, silk suits. He went to Africa to check on one of the organizations that had hired him to work for him, and he saw this outrageous injustice of Africans and Indians. People from his own country, but not just people from his own country. He saw Africans being treated as slaves, Indians being, and it flipped him out. And he dropped his silk suits to wear the sari. And he changed his whole existence. But when he went back to India in the beginning, he actually called upon Indians because his whole desire was to secede from British rule. So he wanted to come back and say, listen, wait a second. My friends in Britain and all my former co-workers are going to be really pissed off at me because I am now going to be looked at as a rebel. But I'm coming back and saying, no, India can rule itself. We don't need you anymore, Britain. Thank you so much for doing what you've done, but we don't need your rule because your rule now is turned into some pretty bad stuff that I'm seeing. Didn't notice it before. But the very first thing he did is he went back to the Indian population and says, hey, draw up your arms. Get guns. Because we're going to be making this major transformation from being, and we need to take our country back. So all of a sudden we have this guy that we know as a peacemaker, but one of his first moves was to have people arm themselves, right? It's like when we look at Nelson Mandela. His second move when he was in law school was to be a peacemaker. His second move was to join the ANC, African National Congress, and he was a terrorist. He didn't get put in prison because he was an altar boy for 27 years. He was blowing up freaking buildings, dude. You know? So, but in 27 years, he changed. Now, he took my one thing theory and expanded it by 26 years. But he was in prison. In prison, he came out. He was a radically changed man, right? But going back to Gandhi, Gandhi saw he made a mistake. He said, wait a minute, I don't know what I was thinking. Throw your guns down. Now, can you imagine the Indian population go, okay, which is it, dude? You know, do we have guns or no guns? And he goes, no, I'm so wrong. I really apologize. I was inauthentic. I was not congruent with my true beliefs. My true belief says we have to do this peacefully. And so everyone threw their guns down. And then he went through years of hell. Imprisonment, starving, fasting, almost died several times with his fasting, which really got the attention of the British rule. And then eventually he succeeded, but he was killed for his openness, his honesty, his congruency, his authenticity. He was murdered. So people aren't going to love us when we start to be authentic and honest and independent versus codependent. Some people might. You know, some people might go, oh my God, you have really changed. Did you take David Essel's 2-day course? Because it's Monday. And like, everyone says all you need is 2 days, and yeah, I'm a totally turned person. No, it's going to take a lot more work than that. But do you see what I'm saying? Like, we can have very authentic people that don't always start authentic or make mistakes, and then, but once they get on, you know, Nelson Mandela wasn't loved by everyone when he became the president of South Africa. Are you kidding me? The white rule is going, what the hell is going on here? We've been ruling this country predominantly of black people for how many years, and now there's a black man there? This sucks. But he was authentic. He was congruent. He did so many beautiful things in order to help that country change. You know? So look at the ethics now. The next question, it says, what ethical areas can I improve? So this is what I want you to do. Look at the list that we just wrote. Circle the one. Circle the one that you say, I can improve upon this the most. No one has mastered all these. You will by of tonight, but not as of right now, we haven't. So circle the one that we can improve the most. Write it down in the next area. What ethical area can I improve? Circle the one we can improve the most. Write it down. And then your homework assignment is create a list of action steps that I will use to improve this one ethical area. Oh, I forgot one of my ethics. Compassion and understanding of others with a different opinion.
We all cross out.
Go back. Yeah. And this last one, it's funny. So now these are extreme examples I'll give you in the world of counseling and coaching, but within the last year, I have had a client come in higher than a kite on heroin, blown out with crack, coming into my office for sessions. These are people that I was working with, and I had someone come in drunk in the last 12 months. So the only concern I have in the world of drug addiction and having someone in my office under the influence is meth. Meth is really scary, because people can actually be 100,000 times stronger than they normally are when they're on meth. And I don't have any meth clients, but heroin clients are usually pretty mellow. Crack cocaine clients can be a little mellow, but they're usually just agitated. They're not like a threat, but they're agitated. You know, they'll be doing this the whole time. And so I've had people come in, and I have to remember this last one. Big time. You know, someone's really high, out of their mind high, drunk, and they're sitting in my office. Now, we have a method in the world of counseling of how to deal with these people, and the very first method is to not mention that you understand that they're that high or that drunk. You don't ever bring it up. We just allow them, we just start a session like it's normal. And then they have a feeling of safety. Because what's their number one fear of coming into an office when they're high or drunk? Judged. They have so much fear of being judged. So we don't judge. We allow them to be high. Very first thing, for about the first 10 or 15 minutes. And then after that, because they can't keep a thought process, they can't keep straight, they don't have their homework done or whatever, then we'll make a comment, something like, today is a tough day to have a session, isn't it? And we'll just start the conversation. Go, yeah, do you want to share what's going on? Well, I just nailed some crack on the way here, and I stopped outside in the parking lot, and I'm really high. And I'll say, yeah, I know, there's days like this will happen. How about if we pick up next week when we both can be in the same place, and would you like to do that? Like, maybe we'll just take today off, and can we start next week? And every time I get the same answer, thank you so much, I can't be here right now. And I'll say, I understand that, can I have a hug? And I'll hug them on the way out the door, and then I'll say, you know, not really sure you should be driving. Can we sit in the car, or would you like to sit in here for the rest of your hour, and can we call someone? Maybe to come and pick you up, because I don't want something to happen. And they'll always say yes. And then they'll get on the phone, and they'll ask someone to come and pick them up, or they'll say, we'll get an Uber or a taxi, or whatever. We'll do whatever to help you, you know? Now, it's not just because I'm a former addict alcoholic that I can do this. It's because we're trained to do this. Have compassion for people who we don't agree with. Doesn't mean I do it all the time. If I'm at a football game and someone in front of me or behind me is drunk, spilling beer all over me, I have a real challenge with being competitive and understanding. So I'm not perfect, but in my office, I have to be. And that's part of the ethics. You know, is that I have no need to rile that person's living with enough shame and guilt being in here. The fact that they even came in blows my mind, you know? Like, a lot of times, the next week they'll come in, I go, how did you even come in? You know? Because if I was you, I would have texted them a lie. I would have said, you know, my mom just died. Is that the same mom that died 10 years ago? Yeah, she just did it again. And this is the second time she died is really a lot harder. I go, oh, I understand, stay home. They'll come up with some lie, you know, and I'll just say, okay, well, the session is charged. You know that because we didn't get 48 hours notice. So you understand the session's going to be paid for? Yes, I do. Okay, I'll see you next week. But we both know they're lying, and then they come in and they go, you know, last week I really wasn't sick. I would not say I know. But that's having compassion for people that we don't agree with or don't understand. So keep that in mind. So then in the ethical areas of what you can improve, look at it and create an outline.
But
Yeah.
this is just with friends, partners, or work?
It's
or
the
with
world.
everybody?
It's the world. Yeah. So whatever ethical area you say, I need to really make a change on this, then create action steps, which is going to be your experience in order to do that. Okay, the next one. So now we're going to get into a little bit from a coaching perspective, but you know, we could also bring this into employees to accept, friends to accept, right? It's like the type of client that we want to accept. So number one to me is that person who will do the work. That's my number one desire when I'm looking at accepting new clients into our practice, is are they willing to do the work? And I want you to think about, if you're not going to go into the world of life coaching, I want you to think about what kind of friends should I accept and hang around with as we go through this. You know, what type of employees should I accept and bring into my work? What type of partners should I accept and bring into my world? Like, all of this is the same. It's all the same. Number one is who's going to do the work. Number two is someone who's honest with me. What would another trait be of the type of person that you'd like to hang out with, bring into your world?
Integrity.
And someone who has integrity. Yeah, they're willing to walk the talk. Can you think of any other traits?
Someone who knows who they are.
Authenticity.
Oh, okay. So if someone knows who they are, they're authentic in their being, right?
They just know they have some stuff to get
Yeah. Okay. Can we say someone who's vulnerable and honest, like someone who's willing to be open and honest and vulnerable? One of the hardest things in friendships, too, when you start a new friendship, is this the real person I'm meeting, right? Is this the real deal? Same thing with hiring employees. Boy, they have a great resume, a great interview. Is this really who they are? You know, partnerships, is this person presenting who they truly are in the partnership? Okay, so it's all the same. Yes?
I would like someone who's independent. I don't like to baby people.
Write it down. The type of friend to have, the type of partner to have, the type of employee to have is someone who's independent.
They go out there and
Yeah,
they Google.
They Google. They Google questions. That's right. They're independent. They don't come to me and ask me to answer every question in the world, right? There is that person you're looking for. They're in Arkansas. They are. There's one person and they are a rock star. So you may want to.
What's the phone number?
Yeah, I know, right? Being an independent person in this world is very rare. It's very rare.
Because that's the opposite of a codependent
Yeah.
person.
You know.
How about if you have friends who are codependent? Would you get rid of them?
Oh, great question. So if you have friends that are liars, that are cheats, that are
That's different.
no wait. No. Where I'm putting them all in the same category. If you have people that lie, that cheat, that gossip, or codependent, and you have them in your life, that is up to you if you want that type of person in your life to keep them. And if you want that type of person, keep them. And if you don't, you have two options. You can diminish your amount of time with them greatly, like by 90%, because they're too much of a drain. They're energy vampires. You know, like liars, cheats, and codependents are outrageous energy vampires. Gossipers, outrageous energy vampires. So if you have those type of people,
That's why nobody likes me.
Aww.
Don't say that.
It was a joke.
Okay. If you have those type of people, you can either cut back the time you spend with them by a large percentage, or you can let them go, right? But remember this, until you make that decision to cut back dramatic amount of time or to let them go, there's not enough space to bring in healthy people, you know? And that's what we want, you know, us, right, you understand?
Overnight.
Yeah, remove and add, Ella, you nailed it. Remove and add, remove and add. Now, there are some people that will say, you know, they've lied quite a bit, they're always late, you know, they're late. I invite them somewhere and they're 20, 30 minutes late every time, and they're this and they're this and they're a pain in the ass. But I'm not gonna let them go entirely. You know, there's some things that they bring to the table that are pretty cool. I mean, they make me laugh my ass off, and, you know, they're very creative and they're very driven. And so we say, okay, well, you know, I'm in their life, I talk to them or text them or email them 4 or 5 days a week. I'm just gonna cut it down to 1 day. You know, like, I'm gonna accept their imperfections because I'm not perfect, but I'm just not gonna be in their energy field all this time getting sucked, right? We did a daily boost recently on a woman that had shared with me about one of her relatives that calls her first thing every morning and last thing every night, like 6 days a week, and both conversations are all about negativity. So she starts her day, because it's a relative, she has a really hard time saying no, which is a form of codependency. So because it's a relative, she listens to this pure negativity, politics, conspiracy, gossip, first thing in the morning and the evening.
That's
You know?
not a good way to start and end your day.
It's not.
It's not
And
healthy.
it's not healthy at all, right? And so in that way, I said, even though it's a relative, I would start off by cutting off one of those calls. Ending, to begin, right? I'm not available mornings anymore. I'm adding a 5th story to my house. I'm sure you understand. I'm not saying lie, I'm just teasing.
That's lying.
I know, I'm just teasing. But you know, like we want to just cut that space off, right? And so you might have friends, and you guys might have friends or employees that when we look at this of who we want to accept, they don't fit that bill very well. But there's something of why I'm saying I'm going to keep them in my life. You know, when I removed alcohol, unknowingly, I removed 90% of my friends. And I didn't plan on it happening. But when I got back from treatment center and I had all these people saying, let's meet for a drink, and they knew I was in a treatment center, I knew that that was not in my best interest. That's how brilliant I was. I said, that's not in my best interest, I don't think.
Well, is
And-
it possible that they're just a reflection of that part of your life that you're trying to change? In other words, if you find someone being codependent, they're attracted to you, and energy attracts energy. So if you're trying to get rid of codependency, you're going to get rid of codependent people in your life. If you're trying to get rid of alcohol, you're going to get rid of your drinking buddies.
Amen.
So it's not them that has the issue. It's
always
you
you.
that's got the issue. And once you remove those blockages or whatever, then those are going to go by your side because you don't want them in your life anyways.
Yeah, 100%. Remove, add. Remove, add. We have to be responsible. We can't say, so-and-so keeps bringing me down. So-and-so keeps talking politics. So-and-so only does this. So-and-so drinks too much. So-and-so eats too much. Blah, blah. It is not so-and-so.
That's you.
It's us. 100% correct, Dan. 100% correct. That's our codependent nature. If we're keeping energy vampires and all these different types of labels we can throw out there in our life, it is us. It is not them. Okay? So this is what we're going to do. We're going to take a few minute break. Michaela's going, yes, Ella's going, oh my God, it's my time. And then we're going to be coming back and we're going to be continuing on the course. You guys are doing awesome. Keep taking notes and we will return. This is David Essel, of course, Life Coach Certification Level 1, Day 2. We're kicking butt and we're going to be back in just a moment.